I just started recording it, that to the current and recent annexation that was supposed to happen this 1st of July. And so this was our response and our way of being able to do something while all of that is happening, in a way to give back to the community, to also help teach and educate about what is going on, not just with the annexation specifically, but just about the Palestinian struggle in general. I think a lot of times the biggest thing that I have always heard is, I want to know more, but I don't really know more. Or I want to learn, but I don't really know where to start, and where do I get that kind of information from, because it's not information that's given to us publicly, nationally, and that's also very deliberate. The keeping of Palestinian knowledge and history and struggle from the public eye and from the media is very deliberate, and is very much part of the Zionist plan, and the reason that they have had power for the last 70 plus years over Palestine, and continue to occupy the area. So that is why we put out our resource guides, and that is why we're having this conversation right now, so that we are helping the folks engage with and look through these resource guides and really be able to utilize them the way they need to. I just realized I didn't introduce myself, but my name is Abire. I am the incoming community engagement coordinator for PAC, and this awareness campaign was one of the first things that I'm working on, so I'm excited to be here. So I did want to make this a little interactive. This is more so I can just kind of run through the resource guide and all the different aspects of it, and kind of give a summary of why I put each one on there. But I did want to hear from whoever joined the call too, if there were specific questions or specific parts of the resource guide we'd like to focus on instead, or if there's something in particular about Palestine that you want to know more about, I can maybe guide you to which part of our resource guide could help with that the most. So I wanted to just open it up first, if there are any of those types of questions or specific topics we wanted to cover. And then we could move that way. If not, I can just run through the resource guide itself. We can even, okay, cool. So I'll share my screen again, and I can just run through the resource guide. So first, the disclaimer is just, this is not an extensive list of resources, of course. This is just the beginning of many conversations. This is a compilation of part 1 and 2. So this is both of them combined into one easy outline to break down, but I'm always looking for more to add. We can have a part 3 if there are some resources that anyone else would like to share or would like to send to us. We definitely can do a part 3 and keep adding on to this list. This is meant to be a communal list for everyone. I started off with books because I am a reader. The way that I got all of most of my knowledge about most things is through books, and so I put the books first, also because I think the scholarly piece of learning about Palestine is one of the most important ways to preserve the history and the struggle. And like we were talking about, how it deliberately is meant to be taken away all the time. This is a way of preserving the history and the research and the knowledge that is not meant to be preserved. So these are some of my favorite books about Palestine, and some of the books that I have myself used in my own work, my own thesis. Yes, I can send it. So our resource guide was initially launched like online on Facebook and Instagram, and it has the extensive list on there. I also just put the list in this chat over here if you want to look over it with me. Yes. So the first one, Suzanne Abul Hawa's Mornings in Jenin, is more of a novel story that it takes place in Jenin, and it's told from the narrative of a little girl, from the perspective of a young girl growing up in Jenin. So that is more of, it's not necessarily theory-based or scholarly-based, it's telling the history through a story of a specific person. Ali Abu Nima's The Battle for Justice in Palestine is less story-based and more theoretically based, and is more so of piecing together current and past events, and bridging together past fight against the injustice of Palestine and current. And I really like it as more of a contemporary analysis too of the history of struggle for Palestine. So I'm not going to go through all of the books, but the list of books here is a mixture of theory-based books and then storytelling and personal experiences, because both are just as important and both need to be documented. And the reason I just really emphasize the books and preserving history and or even oral history into books is because that is one of the best ways to keep this knowledge going and to keep the sharing of this knowledge going together. So we can just go through the book really quickly. Omar Barghouti's is his BDS book we all talk about, or at least hear about BDS, especially if you're working on a college campus. I think it's really important to read this book to really know the true intentions and the meanings behind BDS, and the reasons that people work so hard for them to boycott, divest, and sanction Israel. Angela Davis's Freedom is a Constant Struggle is my favorite book if you are interested in Black Palestinian solidarity. It brings both struggles together in the way that they need to be. It talks about the similar structures that are in place, the structures and systems in place that have affected both communities in different ways, but also in very similar ways. And then, of course, Noura Arakat's Justice for Some, Law on the Question of Palestine is clearly focused on the legal aspects and the illegal aspects behind the occupation. And the list keeps going on. Rashid Khalidi's are more historical texts. Of course, Edward Said are historical texts. And then like Vijay Prashad, number 14, Letters to Palestine, Writers' Response to War and Occupation, would have more so of connecting it to other imperialism and militarism, occupation, and also trying to think more globally and bridge the Palestinian struggle to global struggles. And then Andrew Ross and Shireen Sakely's, to my understanding, are more so of focusing on the economical aspect of the Palestinian occupation. So what is, we talk about the way that the land has been taken and resources has been taken, and these two focus more so on the economy and jobs and how it has affected Palestinian people and the occupation that way. And then when we go down, we get to articles. So if books aren't your thing and you don't really want something shorter to read, these are some of my favorite articles written about or for Palestine. The first one is also on Black Palestinian solidarity, and it's bridging what's happened 2014 in Gaza and in Ferguson, and how both became sites of resistance using social media as a tool to do that and to bridge the solidarity together. The second one is an article written by a very famous, by a Palestinian mathematician actually, and his story and his journey of how he came out of the very institutionalized educational academia, I guess, and from teaching math to really thinking of even teaching in academia as how that has played a part in the occupation of Palestine by the history that is not shared and the history that is not told. So his was, for me, really inspiring as someone who also was part of the university and the academy of how do we kind of balance and mitigate this history that is not told to us, and then the history that we are supposed to learn, and the history that we want to learn. And then the third one is, of course, on June Jordan's Songs of Palestine and Lebanon. June Jordan is an amazing scholar and activist who also focuses a lot on Black Palestinian solidarity. And this is an article that is talking about June Jordan's poems and the ways that they relate to the global struggle. And then if we keep going down, the journals and websites. So these are, if you're not looking for a book or an article, but more so like a journal or something that's going to constantly give you news updates, or just websites that I personally like to use when I want to know what's going on from a perspective that I trust. Electronic Intifada is always one of them. And then these are some journals just from professors and scholars that I know and I have worked with who focus on the Palestinian struggle, or just Arab struggle in general. And again, just a very trusted source. And it's hard to know where to get your news from that isn't going to be, isn't going to be influenced by someone else or something else. And so these are my favorite, my most trusted journals on Palestine, but also Arab issues and global politics and what's happening around the world. If you are most interested in the annexation plan, the sixth one, Joseph Massad's Deal of the Century, final part of the Oslo Trap for Palestinian political elites. This was actually shared with us to add to the resource guide, and this gives his perspective of the annexation plan, the most current one, the July 1st, 2021, and his analysis of it, and how he sees it as affecting Palestinian future and also a part of the history of Palestine with the Oslo Accords. And then moving on to more news kind of centered websites or links, we put in 4 news videos that are educating and talking about the struggle in Palestine, any Palestinian solidarity that is happening. A lot of them are AJ Plus. AJ Plus has many resources, just YouTube videos that I have found really helpful, especially when teaching about Palestine and teaching younger folks about Palestine, because there's a visual to follow along with. They have music, and they're very well put together. And again, a trusted news site, a place that I'm going to go to and know I can trust the information that is given to me. I also love the Intercept. This first one on here, the Intercept in general just has very good politics that are not influenced by Western media or propaganda. And this first one also talks specifically about the July 2020 annexation plan. And I really like their analysis. It's a little bit longer. I think it's about an hour, but I really like their analysis of it. And then AJ Plus, they even went about saving Palestinian forgotten food, even talking about the food that is ours, that is trying to be claimed or appropriated by Israel or other folks. That is a way of preserving Palestinian history. That is a way of being part of the struggle, and fighting to keep the narrative alive. We also have some music playlists because, of course, vibrancy is part of Palestinian culture and tradition. So these are 2 YouTube playlists that you can click on, and it'll link you to them, of some of the best, very fun and upbeat Palestinian songs or Arab songs about Palestine. And then there's also one of the playlists is also more so about more of the political songs. So like the Mahmoud Darwish poems that became put into songs and have been remade to fit more modern types of music and fun. And so I wanted to share both of those. And then Spotify has a lot of actually Arab playlists, and specifically they have one called Palestine Sounds that I have personally enjoyed listening to also. And then continuing with the arts and with culture, music and poetry and spoken word are very important to me. And I think art always has to be at the center of any struggle and any resistance movements that we are a part of, because that is how we show and hold on to our culture and our traditions and our histories. And so these are some of my favorite either poets or singers or poems. Rami Kanazi has many poems, and you can look them up on YouTube. He has many of them made into visuals, but he also has one in a book, and I'm actually in the middle of finishing this book. It's called Before the Next Bomb Drops, Rising Up from Brooklyn to Palestine, and it's a book of just all his poetry compiled, and it's one of my favorites, and I'm almost done with it, and I do not regret getting this at all. Arif Ziad is actually coming out with a new book, which I'm excited to share and to add on to here, but she's very well known for her spoken word pieces. We Teach Life, Sir is one of the most powerful spoken word pieces I have heard. about and for Palestine, for Gaza specifically. So that's a very great one to listen to. And she also has one called Shades of Anger that I personally really like and wanted to highlight. Shadia Mansoor is an amazing Palestinian rapper. So she has lots of videos online and raps about Palestine and to keep the Palestinian resistance and the struggle alive and going. Omar Efendim is also a poet. He has a lot of his poems on Instagram and also has a website. And then 47 Soul is a group, is a Palestinian group to also listen to. And then movies are part of our part two, just like the music. You know, if you don't want to read or follow a journal and instead would want to watch a movie or are looking for movies that do highlight the Palestinian struggle in a creative way and in a way that will keep people engaged. I use these a lot, especially when teaching, because students always, we always struggle to find different ways to keep students engaged, and movies is definitely one of the best ways to do that. Divine intervention I would use for older students, maybe college students and above, just because it is a little bit more abstract and might need a bit more of an analysis. Ahmad is more of a storyline. It's a little easier to follow, and it follows a love story as well. So teenagers and college students usually like and enjoy watching that. Paradise Now, Five Broken Cameras, Wajib, and Flying Paper. Flying Paper focuses on kids in Gaza, and I actually just taught this earlier this week and last week. Kids in Gaza flying kites. How do kites become symbols of freedom, especially in Gaza? How do they see themselves? You know, the parts of the documentary talk about how when you see the kite flying and going to its freedom, then you can imagine having hope for yourself, for your own freedom. So they're very powerful. All of them are very powerful films or documentaries. Five Broken Cameras was also one of my favorites. And you really get emotionally invested in each camera that gets broken throughout that film. So I definitely recommend that one as well. And then lastly, we end it with social media accounts to follow. So for those constant updates to stay connected, if you have Instagram, we've started with Instagram and we can and will expand it to other social media outlets like Facebook and Twitter is my goal. But for right now, with Instagram and especially with quarantine, a lot more people are on social media, and so these are really great and trusted sources to follow and to be able to get more constant updates on live feeds. They're a range of informational accounts and have infographics, and then also just fun or more accounts to highlight the cultural aspects of Palestine, and then of course the legal aspects like Pal Legal. For the movies, some of them are on Netflix. Flying Paper is on Vimeo. I know that you can find it on there. Some of them are on Netflix, and then they're usually on, you kind of have to look up each one. I can do some of that research and add it to this document too to see which one is available where, but for the most part, Netflix and Hulu has most of them, and then Flying Paper is on Vimeo. But we can add that as we keep adding movies as well. Yeah, but I do think Netflix and Hulu has most of them. But those are the sources we have on this thus far. I do want to keep adding more. I do want to make a part 3, so I would appreciate any input, any advice of more resources to add, or any thoughts about different types of resources that we don't have on here. So it doesn't have to be a book or a journal or movie, but if you have ideas of other types of resources that you would like or that you think we could add, I'd be more than happy to take that and to add it on and do some of that research for it. And of course, you can email me. My email is right here and it's on the document, and you can email me for any of those suggestions too. But we can give it a couple minutes if there are any questions or thoughts or comments. Yeah, of course. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for engaging with the resource guide. And as always, you can email me if any other questions or resources come up or are needed. Cool. But yeah, so I think we will end it there. Again, if there are any other questions, I'm happy to answer them through email. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being interested in these resource guides. And hopefully we'll see you at the rest of our workshops. Have a safe and great night.